Namaste. This is the fourth video on the subject of creative nonfiction, Voices from the Margins, course code number 561, MA English, second semester at Tribhuvan University, Kathmandu, Nepal. In the previous video, I was talking about the textualized rhetorical situation, and I explained the concepts of the addressee in rhetorical situation. I also talked about the concept of the occasion as well as presuppositions. Thus, in the second and third videos, I explained the concept of the textualized rhetorical situation. In the second video, I explained the idea of implied rhetor and the actual rhetor, as well as the concept of rhetoric. In the third video, I focused on the speaker, the speech, the addressee, the occasion, and presuppositions. I also talked about the intended audience as well as the actual reader. As you can see in this diagram in a textbook, if you pay attention, you will see that the actual reader and the actual rhetor, both of them are outside the text, if you pay attention. That means the actual rhetor is not in the text. He is the man with the flesh and bone who wrote the text. In the same way, the actual reader is also outside the text, which means the actual reader is the students, let's say, who are reading the text in the classroom. Actual reader is your teacher who is or who happens to read the essay. Now, there is a circle you can see, and inside the circle, there is the text. So, whatever you see inside the text, inside the circle, that is created by the text. For example, the speaker is created by the text, the speech is created by the text, and the addressee also is created by the text. Interestingly, you will see on the top and bottom of this circle, this diagram, that the occasion is at the border line of the circle, neither inside nor outside. What does it mean? It means the occasion is both a matter of the text as well as outside the text. So there are two occasions in this narrative. One, the occasion for the author, Chang Rae Lee, to write this essay, and the other, the occasion for the narrator, the son, to narrate the story. In the same way, the presuppositions are also of two types. The presuppositions of the actual author, Chang Rae Lee's presuppositions, as well as the presuppositions of the actual reader or the actual audience, as well as implied audience. Presuppositions are the values and belief systems which guide the actions and behaviors of the people. And clearly you can see the real reader and the real rhetor are outside the circle, outside the bracket. Whereas the concept of implied rhetor and intended rhetor, if you see, are at the border of the circle. So thus, in the second and third video, I explained you the concept of the textualized rhetorical situation. As I read the essay, paragraph by paragraph, I will try to show you the example of these elements in the text. Now, let's read the essay. So, in the third video, I just started reading the first paragraph. I'll begin there where I left. When my mother began using the electronic pump that fed her liquids and medication, we moved her to the family room. So, the first word is when. That means the writer is using past tense. Let's draw a horizontal line and a vertical line and write here now. This is the point where the essay opens. And you will see that the writer sometimes talks about the past and sometimes he talks about the present. So this now is the present. Now, right now we do not exactly know what time this is. As we read, we'll try to find out indications to exactly define, exactly decide what time it is when this speaker is, this rhetor is speaking. I'm focusing this thing because one important aspect of this essay is narrative framework. This essay is very remarkable for narrative framework because there is a flashback between past and present in this essay. The rhetor, time and again, goes back to his past and remembers moments from the past. Another thing, as we see here, let's focus on the word my, mother, and we. So the pronoun my tells hints about the narrative viewpoint. And we know this is first person singular, right? And this story is being told to us by one of the characters from the story itself. The narrator is not only narrating the story but is also taking part in the events of the story. Let's focus on the word we. What might it mean? We know there is the narrator my, he is a son. Then we know he talks about the mother. Who is left? Probably there is a father and probably there is a sister. This is what a nucleus family consists of. So when my mother began using, so I focused on the word when and talked about narrative framework, flashback. Then I focused on the pronoun my and talked about narrative point of view. Then I talked about the word mother. We. Now let me focus on the word mother. It is important because right in the opening sentence, the rhetor introduces the most important component of the essay, the character mother. And you will see that the whole essay revolves around this character, this figure of the mother. Let me erase and move ahead. Another important thing in this opening sentence is imagery. Visual imagery, particularly machine imagery. As you can see the word, the electronic pump. That fed her liquid and medication. So this pump fed liquid and medication. We moved her to the family room. Now look, the mother was moved to family room, and it says we moved her. That means the mother herself could not move. Now she is being fed liquid and medication with the pump. That means neither the mother can move on her own, nor the mother can eat on her own. If she wants to move, the family has to carry her probably. If she wants to eat, she has to take help of the mother. So what do you see? You see a very emotional scene here. You have a mother who is sick, so sick that she cannot eat and drink, and she is with the help of a machine. So what do you see here? You see a juxtaposition of man and machine. I'm not using man in the sense of masculine, I mean human being. Let me use the right word, otherwise I'll be accused of using sexist language. Human being. So this metaphor of the machine, this image of the machine is very significant in the opening sentence. Let's focus on second sentence. The bedroom she shared with my father was upstairs, and it was impossible to carry the machine up and down all day and night. Look, earlier she was with the father in the bedroom, but now she is in the family room. Why has she been brought to family room? Because in the family room there will be somebody all the time available to take care of her, because she needs an attendant all the time. She is on machine for medication. Okay. The bedroom she shared with my father was upstairs, and it was impossible to carry the machine up and down all the day and night. The pump itself was attached to a metal stand on casters. So there is a metal stand on casters. There are legs with the wheels, and let's say the pump is attached to a machine, and this is attached to the let's say mother's body, and she has to drag it wherever she goes. The pump itself was attached to a metal stand on casters. What are casters? Wheels that are installed on the legs to make them mobile, because the mother has to drag it. And she pulled it all along wherever she went. From anywhere in the house you could hear the sound of the wheels clicking out a steady time over the grout lines of the slate tiled foyer. Now you have another kind of imagery. You have auditory image. The sound produced by these casters as they are dragged over the tile, and as the wheels move across the grout, the lining, they make a sound. So you can see there is complete silence. See the imagery, the visual image of the machine and the auditory image of the sound of the casters. Okay. Her main thoroughfare to the bathroom and the kitchen. So look, the mother who was living in the family room, so she had to go to, if she had to go to bathroom, right, from the kitchen, so she will drag herself along with the machine. And while walking through the tiles, this will make a sound. It's very important. Look what happens now. Sometimes you would hear her halt after only a few steps to catch her breath or steady her balance, and whatever you were doing was instantly suspended by a pall of silence. In this sentence, there is very important indication here. Look, the sentence. Sometimes you would hear. You would hear. Now ask a question. Who is this you? This is the audience. This is the audience created by the text. This is the addressee. Who this you might be. So definitely, when this memoir was published in the New Yorker, October 16, 1995, weekly magazine, so the people read his memoir. So no doubt, this you is the immediate readers of the New Yorker magazine. And the New Yorker magazine was primarily read by the people of New York City, and this magazine published articles about life in New York City, and this story is about the life of one resident of the New York City. So here, Chang Rae Lee, or let's say the narrator, is telling the people of New York City about, look, how people are living in New York City. Okay. So, right in the first paragraph, we come across the pronoun you, and we have an idea about who is the audience or reader of this story. Sometimes you would hear her halt. So can you see that the rhetor is imagining his audience to be standing by his side? That's why he can say, you would hear, as if the audience was by his side. Sometimes he would hear her halt after only a few steps. Why? To catch her breath. To catch her breath or steady her balance. And whatever you were doing was instantly suspended by a pall of silence. What is pall of silence? An oppressive atmosphere of quietness. So we read the paragraph. Now ask the question. What and how? What? Mother. What is this paragraph? This paragraph is about mother, particularly mother's condition. What condition? Sickness. What? Now let's focus on the rhetoric. How does he say it? So, one, He narrates the story. See the mode of writing. It is in past tense in narrative mode. Second, he uses imagery. What kind of imagery? Visual imagery. What kind of visual imagery? Machine imagery. Besides visual imagery, he also uses auditory image. What? The sound of the castors. Besides, there is another visual image of the tiles in the kitchen. And now ask a question. What kind of appeal does the paragraph create? There are three kinds of appeal. Emotional appeal, logical appeal, and ethical appeal. Emotional appeal is created through language. What kind of language? Emotive language. It is also created through visuals or pictures. Here in this paragraph, you see emotional use of language. How does it come? Because the author juxtaposes the mother and the machine. What creates emotion? In the very opening sentence, he says that an electronic pump is attached to her body. Then he says she can't swallow liquids. She can't even take medication. And because she can't climb up and down, first and ground floor, she has been brought to family room. Then she has to drag the machine from kitchen to bathroom, bathroom to kitchen. And while dragging the machine, she is so exhausted, she stops to catch her breath. And when she stops, the machine is not moving, the sound disappears, and the narrator, probably sitting in the next room by the window, when he cannot hear the sound of the machine, he fears she might have collapsed, she might have fallen down, she might have died, and whatever he's doing, he stops, worried. Oh, why? There is no sound. And he impatiently waits when the mom again starts walking and the machine is dragged and the castors again make sound over the ground and he feels fine. So these are the words like the pall of silence, then the castors, the machine. Thus, what we did? We read the paragraph and we focused on the message. What? The mother's sick condition. How? Through narration, narrative mode, through imagery, visual and auditory imagery, and through emotional appeal, the writer creates this effect. The writer, so do you see, because this issue of the New Yorker had the theme of home, and the very first paragraph is presenting a very pathetic situation at home, where an elderly is so sick that she neither can drink nor eat, and she depends on a machine. So, okay, what else? Let me read the second paragraph now. I was usually in the kitchen preparing lunch or dinner. Again, past tense. Let's focus on past, para 1, para 2. I was usually in the kitchen preparing lunch or dinner, poised over the butcher block with her favorite chef's knife in my hand and her old yellow apron slung around my neck, I would be breathless in this sudden quiet, and having ceased my mincing and chopping, would stare blankly at the brushed sheen of the blade. Eventually, she would clear her throat or call out to say she was fine, then begin to move again, starting her rhythmic kajuk, and only then could I go on with my cooking, the world of our house turning once more, wheeling through the black. Okay. So what is in the second paragraph? A continuation from the first paragraph. In the first paragraph, the mother stops walking, and then the son, probably in the kitchen, he looks from the window, and what does he say? I was preparing lunch or dinner because mother could not cook. Now mother cannot work, cannot cook, cannot eat. So the son has come back home to take care of the mother. I was preparing lunch in the dinner. Now this is very interesting because you will see that the narrator has a passion for cooking. He has passion for cooking. He loves cooking. So he says, I was preparing lunch or dinner poised over the butcher block, the block where you cut the meat, with her favorite chef's knife. And he was working with the mother's knife in my hand and her old yellow apron. He was also wearing mother's apron. Slung around my neck, I would be breathless in the sudden quiet. When mom stopped walking, he was so anxious. What happened? He will be breathless, and having ceased my mincing, he will stop mincing, chopping meat. And having ceased my mincing and chopping, would stare blankly at the brushed sheen of the blade. He will look on the knife, thinking what happened to mother. Eventually, she would clear her throat. Then she will clear the throat to indicate people that I'm okay, or call out to say she was fine, then begin to move again, starting her rhythmic kajuk, the way she walked, guess, and only then could I go on with my cooking. The world, the last line, the world of our house turning once more, wheeling through the black. When the wheels moved, the world of the house moved, because everybody knew mom is okay. When the wheels stopped, everything stopped, because they had a doubt if mom is not okay. So do you see, the second paragraph also has very strong emotional appeal. So what mother's condition? How? Through emotional appeal. Okay. So let's move to third paragraph. I was not cooking for my mother, but for the rest of us. When she first moved downstairs, she was still eating. So look here. I was not cooking for my mother, but for the rest of us. Present moment. Then when she first moved downstairs, she was still eating. Past. She was still eating. Past. Though scantily. I was not cooking for my mother, but for the rest of us. The present moment. Right now, in the second paragraph, he was in the kitchen, working, preparing food. And he says, I was not cooking for my mother. Then next sentence, he goes to the past. When she first moved downstairs, she was still eating, though scantily, rarely, more just to taste what we were having than from any genuine desire for food. The mother had no desire for food. The point was simply to sit together at the kitchen table and array ourselves like a family again. This is very important. Look here. Why were they cooking? He knew that mom can't eat, mom won't eat, but still he was cooking that food, wearing mom's apron and using mom's chopping knife. What was the point? Why were they doing all this? He says, the point was to sit together again like a family. And the theme of the this issue, New Yorker, was home. And family is at the heart of home. If no family, no home. The point was simply to sit together at the kitchen table and array ourselves like a family again. That means for a long time, the family was not together. For a long time, the family members were not together. Father was elsewhere probably, sister was elsewhere probably, son was elsewhere probably. My mother would gently set herself down in her customary chair near the stove. I sat across from her, my father and sister to my left and right, and crammed in the center was all the food I had made. So look, there's the dining table, the father, the mother, the son, the daughter, and all the food. The whole family together. Now, earlier we were asking about the idea of presupposition, the values and belief system. Here you have a hint about the values and belief systems of this narrator. So do you see, this narrator believes in the family, right? Okay. I sat across from her, my father and sister to my left and right, and crammed in the center was all the food I had made, a spicy codfish. Look now, this essay is remarkable for a very in-depth, detailed description of the food items, particularly Korean food items. A spicy codfish, you Google images and see how they look. A spicy codfish stew, say, or a casserole, or gingery beef, dishes that in my youth she had prepared for us 100 times. A remarkable aspect of this essay is food vocabulary. As a result of specialized food vocabulary, it becomes quite difficult to read the essay and understand it. There are a lot of words that indicate Korean food items. So what do you see here? He says that I was not making it for my food, for my mother, but the whole purpose of cooking was to bring the family together. And so again, what he talks about, again, mother. He talks about the food. How? By narrating a story, and he makes an argument here. He makes a point, he makes an argument here. He says that the point of cooking was not eating, but the point of cooking was again being together as a family. So do you see the value? The value, the presupposition, the belief. The most important thing is family being together. Okay, let's read paragraph 4. It had been 10 years since we had all lived together in the house. Now pay attention. Para 1, para 2, 3, 4. In para 4 he goes to past. Right? It had been 10 years since we had all lived together in the house. That means for 10 years they were not together. The whole family was together only 10 years before. For 10 years they were not together. It had been 10 years since we had all lived together in the house, which at 15 I had left to attend boarding school in New Hampshire. So 10 years before he was 15. That means now he is 25. Or let's see. It had been 10 years since we had all lived together in the house, which at 15 I had left to attend boarding school in New Hampshire. My mother would sometimes point this out by speaking, look, the conditional would, when you talk about frequently done things in the past. My mother would sometimes point this out by speaking of our present time as being just like before Exeter. What Exeter? A school in Hampshire. Just like before you went to Exeter. Mom said, it's like yesterday before you went to the school, which surprised me given how proud she always was that I was a graduate of this school. Now here in this paragraph, the rhetor also sheds light on his mother's character. The mother says she was proud that he was educated. See, the mother was proud that her son was educated, but she missed him. She missed him. So it is one important paragraph. The bond between the mother and the son is very remarkable in this paragraph. Next, paragraph 5. My going to such a place was part of my mother's not so secret plan to change my character, which she worried was becoming too much like hers. I was clever and able enough, but without outside pressure, I was readily given to sloth and vanity. The famous school, which none of us knew the first thing about, would prove my mettle. She was right, of course, and while I was there, I would falter more than a few times, academically and otherwise, but I never thought that my leaving home then would ever be a problem for her. A private quarrel she would have even as her life waned. Very moving thing here. Though the mother sent her son to school, but she missed him, and this created a problem for her. He went to school at age 15, and when the son left home, the mother never felt comfortable without the son with her. So do you see in this paragraph again the close relation between the son and the mother? Let's go to paragraph 6. Now her house was full again. Now look again. Now. Paragraph 6. Now. Paragraph 5. Then. So you keep track of now and then. Which paragraph is about now? Paragraph 6. Now her house was full again. So present time. My sister had just resigned from her job in New York City to look after the mother, and my father, who typically saw his psychiatric patients, so now we know his father was a doctor, until 8 or 9 in the evening, was appearing in the driveway at 4:30. I had been living at home for nearly a year and was in the final push of work on what would prove a dismal failure of a novel. He was writing a novel. When I wasn't struggling over my prose, I kept occupied with the things she usually did, the daily errands, the grocery, shopping, the vacuuming, and the cleaning, and of course, all the cooking. So all the work that mother used to do, now the son was doing, because the mother was saying, most importantly, now the son was cooking. Cooking is at the heart of this essay. Food. There is a word that is called the framing technique.